Hello and welcome to You've Seen It Before, movie reviews, connections in mind, and welcome to another installment of I've Never Seen It Before. This is just my thoughts on films that I've been meaning to see for quite some time, but never got around to seeing until now. My last review was for Nacho Libre, a classic to some, not quite for me, but this next review is most undoubtedly a classic movie. It is The Godfather, directed by Francis Ford Coppola and stars Marlon Brando, James Caan, and Al Pacino, among others. And this is the story based on the hit novel by Mario Puzo. And this is basically the story of the Corleones, a family of Italian mobsters operating in New York in the mid to late 40s. And this is basically the story of this family and how they fit into the power structure of the organized crime world in New York, in this area, and as well as all across the country, in Vegas, for example, as well as the relationship of these characters between inter-family dynamics and bringing people into the family, how they react to learning about the family business, if they learned about the family business, and their reticence about that thing, and changing thoughts about the family business. This film, I thought, is a classic for many reasons. The fact that so many iconic scenes have come out of this film, so many iconic lines have come out of this film. For example, Marlon Brando saying, "I'll make him an offer he can't refuse." The line of "leave the gun, take the cannoli," the line of "never ask me about my business," and the scenes such as the dead horse head in the bed of the movie producer. I only knew that as being parodied in, I believe it was an Audi commercial, I believe, during the Super Bowl. While ways back, so that was good to see that scene again, and of course the iconic scene in the beginning of the film with Marlon Brando behind the desk in his office, stroking the cat. Which, fun fact, that cat was just a stray cat that wandered onto the studio lot that day, and Marlon Brando picked him up and integrated him into the scene, and no one had the heart to tell him no. So that just stuck in the movie. So that's really cool. I'd say this film is a master film for several reasons. One, it makes you, these are not good people, really. These are mobsters. They've killed people. They have had people killed. They've had people maimed. They kill without remorse, it seems. And we are sucked into their drama. We're sucked into them, and we actually care about their thought processes in determining where they'll go with certain events in their lives and what decisions they're going to make. And we obviously start thinking like they would in certain situations, and that's the way that this film is masterful in that way. It makes you not necessarily sympathize or empathize, but mainly empathize, feel for these characters who are undoubtedly bad people, but they have a certain humanity about them that, for example, if your sister got brutally beaten up, you would probably go out and beat up the person who beat up your sister, mobster or no. So those are the sorts of things that come up in this movie, and it's a fascinating journey. Arguably the main character into this film, you might think, if you've never seen this movie going in, that it's Marlon Brando's character, Vito Corleone, who is the Don Corleone, the head of the crime family at this point. But arguably the main character is Michael Corleone, the son, who starts out as a war hero fresh out of off of World War II. He's a war hero at that point. He has been kept out of the family business until this point. He starts out telling Kay, his girlfriend, that the family business is not who he is, and of course, through a lot of different circumstances, by the end of it, he's the head of the crime family. And then we have that iconic shot of Kay in the kitchen looking into Michael's office, him with the his assorted people discussing things with him, and as someone closes the door of the office, you just see her with this realization of what exactly she's gotten into with this business and what Michael's involved in and what kind of person he's turned into at this point. And there are certain things, that's just a fascinating view of this character. I mean, there's not really a lot of action in this film. I mean, people die. You see that on film in certain instances of the film, but it's really a character drama, and I thought that was it was very well done. And this is the point of the review where I would say maybe try to compare it to films that had come before it. In this case, films that came before, I believe it was 1972. I haven't looked that up, but yeah, early 70s, so it would be films before that. But honestly, I couldn't think of them off the top of my admittedly more limited knowledge of pre-1970s films. I have a bunch, but I haven't seen all of them from that time period. But I will also say I've reviewed films in the past that I considered what I called trendsetters, such as the first Star Wars film and the Matrix film, the first Matrix, that defined their genre going forward for who knows how long, even today. And this would be another one, what I would call a trendsetter film. There were obviously several other gangster films that were to come out after this film, but this is undoubtedly the one that set the standard for this sort of Italian mobster story that a bunch of films would eventually imitate and pay homage to, and as well as it made such an impact on culture as we know it, that even if you've never seen The Godfather, most likely you've heard somewhere along the line the phrase, "I'll make him an offer he can't refuse." Even if you've never heard of The Godfather, never seen The Godfather, you probably heard that phrase. That's where how this movie has become ingrained into our culture. And I would say this is definitely worth a watch. This might not be for everyone. It is 3 hours long, and if you're not used to long films, it didn't really feel its length for most of it. There were a couple instances, I will say, where certain cuts between scenes, between different characters, especially towards the first third, especially between what Vito Corleone's doing, what Sonny Corleone is doing, what Michael Corleone is doing, cut, back and forth. Certain ways that was shown didn't quite was kind of jarring in certain instances, and by the end it did seem like it was starting to drag just a hair. But if you're not really into, at least for me, if you're not really into or not okay with long films, this might not be the one for you. You might want to break it in half. I think there's a good halfway point where you could probably break it and call it two separate in 2 installments. But other than that, yes, I definitely recommend seeing this at least once in your lifetime. I'm glad I saw it. It's taken me quite a while to get around to this film, but I'm glad I saw it. So those are my thoughts on The Godfather. What did you think? If you have seen The Godfather, do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you have any issues with it? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate whatever audience I can get. I don't have an idea for what my next I've never seen it before will be, but be sure to look for my next TV review, which will be for The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, which comes out on Netflix August 30th. So be sure to look for that. Again, thank you so much for watching, but just remember, there is nothing new under the sun, and yes, you have seen it before.